May I just check whether you're seeing the screen titled Principles of Lasallian Social Development?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I already made this available through Canvas, I think. If not, I will make it available shortly. So this particular, this short presentation talks about how the different Lasallian values of faith, service, and communion can be translated into something concrete that will help us, well, do our share in building a just and humane society. So this particular cartoon was developed by Dr. Benty Hankey, who introduced the insider action research in the LaSalle MBA curriculum. So we begin with the first Lasallian value, which is faith. When we talk about faith, we begin with trying to understand the world in terms of how God sees it. Okay, so we look at it from the loving eyes of God. So we begin by trying to understand, by being aware and trying to understand what it is that is happening around us. But we look at it from a particular lens. In the case of LaSalle, when we say looking through things in the world through the loving eyes of God, we follow the notions of integral human development, which is what we talked about last meeting. So it is basically making you aware that when we work in organizations, it's not all about profitability. It's not all about efficiency. In fact, we would go as far as saying that it is the interests of the employees that should be given priority because they are human beings, right? So we look at the world in terms of integral human development, making sure that we're able to develop people to their fullness. So in your case, if you are already supervisors and managers in your organizations, that is something that we hope should be deeply ingrained in you. Making sure that you take care of your people and making sure that you're able to develop them in terms of their in terms of the various dimensions of wellness, which is what we talked about the last time. But of course, we must also remember that we have to be stewards of the environment because it is from the environment where we get all of the things that we need to sustain our lives as human beings. So integral human development, taking care of people, and environmental sustainability, taking care of nature where we draw the resources that we need for our lives. Now, the goal, as I mentioned earlier, is to make sure that we develop a just and humane society. So after being able to bring our awareness and understanding to a certain level, it is important that we are able to translate this into concrete action. So it's not enough, for Lasallian business leaders to know what is happening in the world. We must be able to come up with something concrete that will help other people. Now, for most of us, helping other people or making sure that there is justice and fairness in the world could be very well doing things within the confines of our families, our communities, or maybe in the organizations that we work for. So for instance, if you are managers or supervisors, it could very well be making sure that the people under you are working under healthy and safe working environments. Making sure that we also give them time so that they can do other things outside of work. All right. For some of you, and I've read this in some of your assignments on the our code of ethics, you might want to go beyond simply what you're doing in your respective organizations. Some of you have actually done volunteer work. Some of you have done things in their church or in the local communities to be able to give back to their respective communities. Now, we recognize that there are a lot of injustices happening in our environment. In business, we have exploited workers, people who are receiving minimum wage, sometimes less than minimum wage, but toiling under very dangerous or very stressful conditions, right? And of course, no, we know that there is a lot of things that need to be done in terms of alleviating poverty and sickness in our society. Now, once we're able to see all of these things now that are happening around us, it is imperative that we try to understand, okay, what is the reason why there is injustice, or suffering around us? So that is where your background as MBAs, no, your understanding of different frameworks can contribute, okay, maybe to solving these problems. Okay, let's say if we understand the reasons for, let's say, inequalities in the workplace, inequalities in terms of income, then maybe we can do something in terms of, let's say, changing the structure of our corporations, of our workplaces, so that we are able to also distribute the wealth to more people. All right. So the bottom line is that we must understand, okay, and try to go deeper and try to understand the reason for these sufferings and injustices, and then try to come up with appropriate solutions to these problems. Now, I recognize that it might not be viable at this point, no, for most of us to do it at the societal level. But it is definitely viable if we want to do certain things that will improve the situation in our own organizations. All right. If we recognize that there are people who are treated unfairly in our workplaces, what can we do? Okay. If we feel that there are certain people that are not, let's say, given opportunities within the organization, is there something that we can do to open up these opportunities for them? All right. So those are some of the questions that I'm posing right now. We don't need to answer them immediately, but as we go through the process of reflecting upon what is happening in our organizations, as we go about trying to identify problems or issues that are confronting us and our coworkers, then we are on our way of trying to do things that might make a difference, okay, even within our small spheres of influence. Now, okay, there are things that we can do at a personal level. Okay, for instance, now we see that there are people who are hungry outside. Then maybe we can do our share by contributing to charity, maybe opening up community pantries in our organizations. This is a personal, this is a personal thing. Or that maybe we can donate, let's say, to UNICEF or World Vision or other NGOs, if it's only, let's say, at this point, financial contributions that we can give because of limitations in our time. So those small things done at the personal level can make a difference. But from the point of view of Lasallian social development, we recognize that we can scale up our influence by working with other people. Okay, if we just do it individually, okay, that's good. But if we do it together with other people, then we might be able to scale, okay, the impact of our collective influence, collective resources, and talents. All right. So that is where the value of community comes in. So we want to serve as individuals, but if we serve together as a community, communion and mission, yung third Lasallian principle, then we might be able to make a dent in terms of improving the situation in our country through communion in mission. All right, I think we are seeing this in several in some LGUs. We're also seeing this, let's say, in the way that some NGOs are doing their work, etc. Okay, so these are basically what we mean when we say that we expect Lasallian business leaders to manifest the Lasallian values of faith, zeal for service, and communion in mission. All right.